All right, I'll be moving to Hawaii later this year, and I'm interested in leaseholds because of their general affordability. Are leaseholds typically able to be bird? Would be curious to hear your insight on potentially increasing the value of leasehold properties in the short to midterm. Scott, start this out by at least explaining what leasehold is and how much of it really is left to purchase, and then address the question.
Yeah, I love this question because it touches a little bit on things that people should be aware of from leasehold, but then you got an investment component. I'll define bird as well. So most 90, probably 99% of properties on Oahu and in Hawaii in general are what most people are used to, fee simple, meaning you own the home and the land that it's on. That's what you would see in most of the United States and most of what you'll have here. But there are some properties here that were intended to be more affordable options to being able to get in that, and they're called leasehold. So you own the house or you own the condo for a specified period of time, but you lease the land or rent the land that's underneath it. And it's very similar to a car lease. You typically pay a certain amount up front for the use of the car for a certain period of time, and then you turn the car back over. And most of those leasehold properties had about 60-year leases up to 99-year leases. And when you go to purchase it, you're purchasing it wherever you are in the time frame of that lease contract. So it could be 40 years left on the lease, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years. And the shorter the lease period gets, the more affordable the unit gets. Because if you buy a leasehold unit, the lease is gonna expire next year, and there's a reversionary clause at the end of that lease, meaning it reverts back, the unit reverts back to the landowner. There's not a whole lot of value in that because you only get to use it for, say, a year. And so you may see leasehold properties that are $20,000, a condo that's $20,000 or $30,000. And it seems too good to be true. Well, it is. It's probably a leasehold property with a very short lease. And so
how much of a payment, because you're not just paying the 20,000, there is a monthly lease fee, correct?
Correct.
Or annual lease fee.
They're monthly, usually monthly.
Yeah.
And I mean, the first place I ever bought was Leasehold in 2001. And I think our monthly lease rent was like $50 a month. And then there was a renegotiation of that lease, and it would jump to like $150 a month. And there's some right now, $4,000 a month, $150 to $4,000 a month. That there's a huge spread on that, but you do have a monthly payment of a minimum of lease rent that you have to pay to that landowner.
Right.
And so, do you want to touch on that a little more?
Well, again, it's the amount of leasehold that is available, because I understand it's one of those things that brings affordable into the picture. And also, what do you want to do with it? I'm going to buy a leasehold. I'm going to rent it out. Let's have some income for 10 years. I'll sell my leasehold to somebody else. I think that there has been a market for it. Again, you see much less. What you see now mostly is fee simple property, which means you own the land as well as the dwelling on it, the infinite space underneath all the way to the infinite middle of the earth, whatever. But anyways, that's fee simple. So there is, there has been. I have to question how much really is even left, because most of it now is fee simple property, as leasehold has kind of, people will buy out of the leasehold. They'll make it fee simple. So I don't know.
In the early 2000s, because leases were starting to get to that point of expiration, and the state did not want to have to do mass evictions, right? It was going to become a problem. The state incentivized landowners to sell the land and make it fee simple, so it converted fee, and they gave them a huge tax break. Basically, you didn't have any capital gains tax. So you had a ton that converted then, but that expired. And so you still have less than 1%. typically where these properties are beneficial are lifestyle properties. Somebody wants to own an oceanfront condo and they're up in their years and they don't care to leave that property to their kids and they want an affordable way to enjoy this amazing lifestyle. Well, at least that leasehold unit could be an option. Or if you can't afford the fee simple.
That's me. That's me. I just figured out my future. I'm going to live oceanfront. Well, no, I continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of it is the lifestyle driven component at an affordable cost, and you're not concerned about the value out of the back end. Or if you can't afford the fee simple option, but you want to get into home ownership and you got a long lease on it, favorable terms, well, maybe you get into that and use that as the stepping stone to get to the next place, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Or if you know the fee is going to increase. So we just still got to talk about the bird part.
All right. So I thought it was meant that there was the time bird because the Waimea east side gets cold sometime and brr, I don't know, but
so this is an investment term, right? Bird means buy, rehab, refinance, repeat. So you purchase it, fix it up, cash out, refinance, get your money out, rent it, and then move on and do the same thing with another one. And you continue and go and go and go until you've got a portfolio of properties. And so the one thing to be aware of with leasehold is generally when you get into affordability on the leaseholds, you got a shorter lease term. And if you want to be able to do the refinance portion, the rules are you need 6 more years left on the lease than the length of the loan you're going to get. So if you want to get 30-year financing, you need 36 years left on the lease or more. And keep in mind, if you do 36 years left on the lease and you hold that property a year and it's 35, well, guess what? Now you can't do 30-year financing anymore, right?
Right.
So if you're going to go that bird route, you need leasehold properties with a pretty long lease, and the longer they get, the closer to the fee simple pricing they're going to get.
Right. Well, this also that basically, I look at that term and I think of the flipping. People say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to flip house. I'm going to buy and flip houses." And to me, that's like buying a stock, waiting for it to go up in 2 weeks and then selling it. How often does that happen, right? So there is a time frame involved in that, but also all these programs on television, flipping such and such a suburb and whatever, caveat emptor, buyer beware. I've watched people over and over who have tried this. Very few are successful. I would suggest maybe perhaps an Amway distributorship might work better. Just kidding. It's a timing thing, but I think the leasehold would have worked far better. I basically use that as a way to interject to people that, buying, rehabbing, refinancing, etc. It's a great business model, but it's not easy, and timing is very important. If you're in it for the longer haul, you're going to do better because you can rent that property out until the market does get better, and you can actually sell that property at a gain.
Well, that's a little bit of what it is, right? If you take out the rehab and the refinance, they are holding on to the property, right? And they're renting it out. But the refinance portion comes into play here, and that's where you got to be careful with leaseholds.
With the leaseholds,
it's all dictated on the length of that lease. And so let's say you go into a property where you're like, all right, 36 years left on the lease. I like the value on this. I rehab it, and all of a sudden you get 35 years left on the lease. You're like, oh, I'm gonna refinance that into a 30-year mortgage, and all of a sudden you can't do it.
Right.
I would contend there's a threshold here where you get to a point where you can finance a leasehold property and you can't finance it, that the value significantly drops because you eliminate a large buyer pool at that point, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.